Creating your infrastructure with code is a best practice that every developer should follow. But when you're first learning AWS, most folks tend to get started by using the AWS console. After all, the console is easy to use, it's very user-friendly, and it walks you through the process of setting up your first app. But apps that started as a prototype or a sample project can quickly evolve. New components get added, configurations get updated, and all of a sudden, an app that was once a proof of concept is now a complicated monster that's serving production traffic to real-life customers. It's at this point that most folks discover infrastructure as code and are eager to start using it. But there's kind of a big problem. Converting your app that was created manually into infrastructure as code is kind of a risky and hellish process that's prone to mistakes and I guarantee you at least some frustration. But now AWS is making it a whole lot easier for existing applications to start using infrastructure as code. They're streamlining this by introducing two new features, IaC Generator and CDK Migrate. IaC Generator is a tool that scans all the resources in your AWS account and helps you create a CloudFormation template containing only the resources that you select. For example, if you have an account with dozens of resources but only want to include a S3 bucket and a DynamoDB table into your CloudFormation file, then that's very easy to do using the provided UI. After you choose the resources that you want to include, you then decide whether to create a brand new stack from the CloudFormation template or merge those new resources into an existing stack. Both are very useful in different circumstances. But that's not all. The coolest part about this new feature is using CDK Migrate, which is a brand new command as part of the CDK CLI that lets you do some really powerful stuff. CDK Migrate helps you create a brand new CDK project using that same template file as the starting point for your project. So everything that you selected to import into your CloudFormation file can then be imported into your CDK project, and all the corresponding code in the language of your choice will also come with it. From there, you can start mucking with the code and making changes to your infrastructure and deploying them into CloudFormation. Clearly, this feature is kind of a big deal, and it's going to help many users, including myself, migrate some very old legacy applications that were built manually into the more modern world using infrastructure as code. So let me show you a quick demo now of what these two new features have to offer and some special considerations that you need to make while you're using them. So let's head over into the console now and see what this thing does. But before that, this video is sponsored by TwinGate. TwinGate is a VPN alternative that makes it easy to connect to secure resources in your AWS account. TwinGate uses a zero trust access system to ensure that your sensitive assets are protected at all times. It enforces least privilege access policies so that only users with the right sets of permissions can interact with your resources. It's also fast, can support hundreds of concurrent users, and is super easy to set up. In a previous video, I showed you how easy it was to use TwinGate to securely access my private RDS database. Using TwinGate, you can eliminate the need for a jump box and access your database as if it's on your local network. I got this all set up and working in less than 10 minutes time. TwinGate is absolutely free for less than 5 users. You can give it a try today using my link in the description. All right, so here we are in the AWS console. First things first, let's head over into the CloudFormation section of the console because that's where the new features are listed, where you can start using them. All right, so this is just the default page, but as you can see over on the left-hand side here under IaC Generator, this is the brand new feature that AWS just launched that we're going to be using in this demonstration. And so in order to get started, let's go ahead and click on that now, and I'll walk you through what this wizard lets you do and some of the things that you need to know about when you're using it. So if we take a look at what's going on here, there's 3 different steps that we need to walk through. First things first, we need to scan our AWS account resources. This is going to register all of the resources that we have in our AWS account into IaC Generator. So all the roles, all the Dynamo tables, all the S3 buckets, all the queues, permissions, policies, everything that you have in your AWS account, you're going to use a feature, which is basically right here to start a new scan. We'll get to this in a second, but this is going to register all of these resources into this new feature so that you can decide to import them into into your CloudFormation stack. So that's the first thing that we're going to need to do. From there, the wizard is going to walk you through creating a CloudFormation template. And like I was speaking to in the intro, you can either create a brand new template out of the resources that you created. So it's going to be just containing those resources that you selected, or you can create a new template and merge those resources that you selected into an existing CloudFormation stack, which is very useful if you already have one that exists, but maybe someone created some manual resources on the side or changed some configuration, and you want to get all those changes into your stack. That option is very, very helpful. And then the third thing that you want to do is you want to actually import those newly created files into CloudFormation, or create a CDK application that is going to do the same thing, import them into CloudFormation. So those are the first three steps: scan the account, create the template, and then import it into CloudFormation. So let's walk you through this now and show you how this works. So like I mentioned, the first thing that you need to do is you need to click on this button here, which is to start a new scan rather. Now I already started a scan. I already completed it. It takes like 10 minutes or so, depending on how many resources in your account. But as you can see in the details here, we scanned 1,949 resources in my AWS account. All right, now once you're done that, the next thing that you're going to want to do is scroll to the bottom here, and we're going to want to click on this Create a Template button down here. And this is going to launch the template creation wizard. And so this is where you have these two different options, right? You can either start from a brand new template, or you can update the template from an existing stack, or merge these changes into an existing stack. I'm going to walk you through the first one, or the one on the left first, so this one, and then I'll just kind of show you the introductory for this option to show you kind of what that workflow looks like, but I'm not going to kind of go through the entire process. And so we're going to leave this as default here. So start from a new template. Let's give this template a name. So template test is fine. Now these two options down here, the deletion policy that you can see at the bottom, deletion policy and the update policy, are kind of important. These have to do with how CloudFormation behaves when you either delete or update policy or update resources in your CloudFormation file. The deletion corresponds to when you delete or update the stack, and the update corresponds to when you update the resource. So you're not deleting the stack or modifying the stack, you're just changing the resources. You have two options here. You can either retain or delete. Make sure that you choose retain for both of them. Also read up on this documentation to understand more about what it does. But the TLDR is that if you keep retain for delete, if you delete the stack, and then your resources are going to be preserved, it's not going to delete the resources as well, which can be great if you accidentally fat finger something. Similar idea for update. If you update something, then it's going to create a copy of your resource. And then it's going to preserve the old one, so not delete it either. If you want to change that functionality, you can certainly do so. However, I do recommend, if you're ever kind of merging stuff, or you have resources that exist, say a table or an S3 bucket, and you're just bringing it into CloudFormation for the first time, make sure that you do this in like some kind of test environment and just kind of walk through the process. You don't want to screw this up, especially if there's like production traffic going on, or an app that's already using those resources in your account. You don't want to get yourself into a sticky situation like that. Okay, so when you're done, we're going to leave this as template test and retain for both. We're going to go to the bottom right now to click on next. And that's going to, okay, so this is the interesting part of this. We get to now add the scanned resources to our template file. And this list, as you can see here, it's a pretty long list if I scroll down, and it's alphabetical. And it's got many different pages of resources that you can create, or select from rather. But this is effectively where you pick the resources that you like to bring into the template file that you're specifying. And so the interesting part about this feature as well is that if you pick a resource that has, it's related to other resources inherently. So say, for example, like an API gateway deployment of like object or resource, that's got a bunch of other things that are related to it as well. Maybe I'll show you that one actually, because it is kind of interesting. What'll happen is that it'll suggest to you the extra things that are related to that particular resource. so that you can bring all of them and not just have kind of orphan stuff that you bring into your CloudFormation template and you left behind some other stuff that is related to it, but now is kind of not included in the template. So let me show you this. I think like this one should be good, which is the API Gateway REST API. Okay, so we're just going to select that, but you can select many different resources here, as you could imagine. But let's see what this one does. So it shows you in the bottom here the selected resources. It's an API Gateway REST API. Let's see if it gives us the recommended or related. Yeah, there you go. So this one is detecting right here in these top two lines, like we can see right here. So the deployment and the stage are also related to this API. So pretty handy, makes it pretty easy to not leave anything behind. So let's take these things with us. So we're going to get 3 resources in total as part of this template file. So I went ahead and clicked on next there. So it's just giving us kind of a summary of what we're doing here. So we scanned this resource and it shows us that it's not currently managed by another stack, which is a good thing. I wonder if this would kind of throw an error if you weren't able, if it was already managed by a stack. I don't know, I haven't tried that, but it could. So let's see now what happens when we go to create a template. And okay, so it's just generating the template now. It's walking through the wizard or walking through the progress bar here. We'll just wait for a second. Let's scroll down. Okay, and as you can see here, here is the corresponding CloudFormation file that contains all the resources that are related to what we selected. So the resources that we want to brought in. And if you look closely here, it's kind of small, but we got the API Gateway here's the stage. So we got the API Gateway stage, we got the API Gateway deployment, and there's the deployment type, and then we should have here's the REST API. And then obviously there was some, oops, not sure what happened there. Looks like there's a bug here. But anyways, it's got a policy and it's got a principal associated with it. So all the stuff that basically I had specified came with it, which is great. So now what you can do is you can, you have a couple options. You can kind of tinker with this. You can look at some of the resources. These are the ones that we're going to include. But one thing that we can do is we can just download this file as is, and you can bring this into your source code. And if you use something like SAM, or if you're just using like CloudFormation on local, you can start making changes to this file and start using it as part of your stack. And so what you can do at this point is that you can import this to a stack. And if you do this, I'll kind of just walk you through what happens. We're going to use this generated template. We're going to give this a stack name. So what did I call this? Like test stack or template test. Let's try this. We're going to do this again for the CDK version. I'll walk you through what that looks like too. We're going to click on next now, and then no parameters, fine. And then it's going to ask us to review the changes. But then once we're happy, it's going to create this stack for us. Okay, so it's importing these stacks or these resources into the stack. We're going to scroll down, import resources. And here we go. You can see now we have a template test that is going to kind of import these resources. And now basically we're good to go. If we go to the resources section, or this is almost done actually. Is this done? No, it's still going. Almost done, keep on going. Okay, update complete, import complete. And if you go to resources now, you can see like, okay, here's the stuff, the API Gateway deployment, the REST API, and the stage, right? And then if you go back to the stack sections, you should be able to see, yeah, so now we have this template test thing, which is basically what we just selected. Okay, so let me show you this now using the CDK version. I'll walk you through in Visual Studio Code to show you how to kind of do the same kind of thing and then bring this into CDK and then start seeing the code that it generated for you and making changes using CDK, which is honestly the best part about this feature in my opinion. So let me just fly through this again. So we're going to go to IaC Generator. Let's create a new template. Call this, we'll call this the CDK demo 1. We're going to retain, that's fine. And then we're going to pick like some random resource here. Let's pick a Dynamo table that I have in this account. I think that's part of a different project. Let's take the, validation request DynamoDB table. Okay, next. And okay, there's some stuff that's associated with it. Pretty cool. We're going to bring that as well. I like that. Those are alarms. Okay, we're going to scroll down here, create the template, and then instead of using the import stack feature, we're going to use this feature right here, which is the AWS CDK feature, and it's going to give us a command. We're going to download a file as well. So as you can see, similar to what we had before, we just have like all the CDK or the CloudFormation resources as part of the YAML file here. But if you go to the AWS CDK section, you can see it's giving us some instructions. So the first things first, it's asking us to download this template file, which we're going to do. We're going to click on this button. And then you can see down here, there's this command. So it's giving us a command that we can bring into our terminal, and it's using the CDK Migrate command, and it's giving us a stack name parameter, which we're going to use for CDK demo. And then it's saying from path, and it's giving us a reference to a CDK file. This is the one that we're going to get by clicking this button by downloading. And then you can also specify the language. So if you want TypeScript, Java, Python, any other languages that are supported in CDK, then you can change that as well. And if you want, you can go to this button over here on the right, edit command arguments, and you can change the name and you can change the language that you want to use if you like to use CDK with something else. I like TypeScript. This demo name is fine. Let's go ahead and use that. So first things first, I'm going to download this file. Okay, this is called CDK demo, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to copy this command to my clipboard. Now I'm going to take this file, I'm going to set up an empty directory in Visual Studio Code, and then I'm going to run this command and show you what happens. So I'll see you there in a second. All right, so here we are in Visual Studio Code. As you can see here on the left, I already have this file. It's in my temp directory. This is the thing that we just downloaded. So it's got like a CloudWatch alarm and references to our DynamoDB stuff. I think probably at the bottom is going to be where my DynamoDB table is at this rate. All CloudWatch alarms. Okay, there's a DynamoDB table somewhere in here, but this is mostly just alarms as it seems. See, now I'm frustrated. I want to find the table. It's got it. There it is. Okay, so it's here. So it's DynamoDB table, blah, blah, blah. It's called the validation request table. Okay, so here's the cool part. What we can do now is I'm just going to paste that command in that we just grabbed from the AWS console. And so just like what we saw, CDK migrate stack name CDK demo from path, and I'm giving it the path to this file that we're looking at right now. And we're going to use TypeScript. So I'm going to press enter now. And this, assuming that you have the AWS CDK installed and you have the right permissions set up on your user access key, your secret access key, and your user key, this should work seamlessly. And as you can see, there's a new folder that just got generated. It's doing a whole bunch of stuff here at the bottom, generating some stuff, but I'll show you what it created, which is pretty impressive. And it's going to contain all the resources that were in this YAML file that we were just looking at. So this may take a second or so. Hopefully this will wrap up. There we go. So we're all done. Okay, so we're in the temp directory on our terminal. That's great. But let's take a look at what's inside here. So over on the left-hand side, this is basically what you would see if you started a brand new CDK project using CDK init. So it's got the README files, it's got the package JSON, the package locks, it's got a test folder that's going to contain a sample test. But the interesting stuff is inside the lib file. And if you go to, well, this name will be dependent on what you named your folder here. Mine is CDK demo, so it's called the CDK demo stack. So if you click on this and if you kind of take a look at what's happening here, well, it's creating a DynamoDB table. And if we scroll to the right, it's creating a new DynamoDB CloudFormation table. It's calling it this weird name, which is just a reference ID, which is fine. But the actual table name here is validation requests. And this is basically inheriting the properties from the DynamoDB table as it existed in my AWS account, which is insanely cool. And it has all the different settings that were on that account, including the hash key. It's got all the TTL stuff, and then here are all the alarms, right? So it's creating a bunch of alarms here. What do we got? So yeah, CFN alarm, blah, blah, blah. So this file contains a whole bunch of stuff, and this is a great starting point if you want to just like get started with CDK, but you have a bunch of stuff that you created manually and you didn't really know how to bridge that gap. So at this point, like this is just set up locally, right? So I don't have like CDK demo stack doesn't exist in my AWS account yet. I can prove that to you. If we go back to the console here, we go back to CloudFormation and we go to the stack section, you don't see CDK demo here, right? There's no CDK demo because we haven't kind of initialized the stack. Everything has been done locally so far. So what we need to do now is go back to our terminal here and make sure you're in the same directory. So a new directory got created. In this case, mine was CDK demo. So I'm just going to change directories. Let's clear this up. And I'm just going to say CDK deploy now. And what this is going to do is it's going to register itself in CloudFormation and make it so that, you know, any changes that I make in these files will actually get reflected in my resources within CloudFormation and within my AWS account. So first thing, before you do anything, just run the CDK deploy command. Don't change any of the stuff that exists, or else it results in some wacky error that's hard to debug. But just run it as kind of as everything gets generated. You shouldn't have a problem. And then we'll see that in the AWS console, all the stuff is going to be there. The CDK demo stack will be there. So we can see this succeeded. That's great. Let's go back really quick and look at this. And so there you go. So now CDK demo is here. And if we go to resources, we should see, yeah, so we got like those CloudWatch alarms. We got our validation request table. Everything is looking great here. And if we want, we can go into this CDK directory now, or the CDK project file, and like start changing some things. So like we can, I don't know, add a new mode or change the mode. I don't know, let's change the write or the read capacity units to 2, for example. I don't know, something trivial. You can do like everything you would normally do. So CDK diff now, and hopefully you'll be able to see the difference once this generates itself, which can take a moment or so. So we'll give this a sec. Okay, it's running the diff, yada, yada, yada. Okay, and there you go. You can see we're changing the provision throughput, the read capacity units from 1 to 2. So let's do CDK deploy now. And this should, actually, I'm going to go over to the CloudFormation section because we should see this change to like update in progress or something as soon as it goes. I'm going to keep on refreshing this, assuming that it's going to work. Hopefully nothing is breaking. This is always risky, live demos, kind of. Okay, so it's still creating the change set, blah, 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 blah. This should change in a second. There we go, update in progress. If you go to events and refresh this, yeah, so it changed this, changed the throughput. The update is pretty much complete. Let's go to DynamoDB table, check that out really quick, and just verify that everything has been changed. And this was what? The validation request table and provision mode. And where's the capacity now? They changed this UI. It drives me nuts. And if we go to, I think it's, yeah, so it's additional settings. So you can see the provision read capacity units are now 2, which is exactly what we specified in our code right here for our read capacity units. So this is CDK Migrate and IaC Generator, 2 very powerful new features from AWS, going to really help you out to get migrated into the IaC universe and start taking advantage of all the benefits there. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, learned something. Thanks so much. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.